And if you like the video or any other content on the channel, feel free to subscribe. In this video, I go over the Custodian Wardens datasheet with an in-depth look at the two abilities Living Fortress and Resolute's Will. This unit is usually the backbone of most competitive lists. A multitude of defensive abilities paired with smart stratagem use can make these things into nightmares for your opponents. We also go through each detachment, highlight the detachment rule and stratagems that bring out the strengths of this unit and shore up the weaknesses of this unit. I will start with the Custodian Wardens datasheet itself. Now we'll go over the Custodian Wardens datasheet. We have a movement of 6, toughness of 6, a 2-up save with a 4-up invulnerable, 3 wounds, leadership of 6, and an OC of 2. For ranged weapons, we have either the Guardian Spear or the Castellan Axe. Both of them have 2 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 4, AP 1, damage 2. And then our melee weapons can be either the Guardian Spear or the Castellan Axe. The Guardian Spear has 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 7, AP 2, damage 2. Then the Castellan Axe is 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 9, AP 1, damage 3. And for the war gear options, you can either take the Castellan Axe, the Guardian Spear, and then one model in the unit can have a Vexilla, which will bring the OC of each model in the unit up by 1. Army Rule Martial Kata, a great army rule to boost our melee damage potential. If we'll be wounding on 4 or less, pick Sustained 1. If it's 5 or 6s, pick Lethal Hits. Now let's go over the abilities for the Custodian Wardens. They have Deep Strike and Martial Kata. Then they have Resolute Will. While a character model is leading this unit, each time an attack targets this unit, if the strength characteristic of that attack is greater than the toughness characteristic of this unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. Living Fortress, once per battle at the start of any phase, this unit can use this ability. If it does, until the end of the phase, models in this unit have the Feel No Pain 4+ ability. Let's go over Resolute Will a little bit here. Having access to -1 to wound from Resolute Will makes this unit the best unit we have for holding objectives and taking large amounts of damage to kill. Most weapons that are not higher strength than the Custodian Warden's Toughness 6 will also only be AP 0 or AP 1. The Warden's 2-up save should keep them protected from most small arms fire. Anything medium to heavy will get the -1 to wound roll from Resolute Will. Enemy units that ignore modifiers can counter Resolute Will, so be mindful of such units. Now the big one, Living Fortress. This is why we take Custodian Wardens over Custodian Guard. This is also why it's so hard to take any other infantry unit in the Codex. We have a small model count in 1k or even 2,000 point games. Having an ability to keep models alive through heavy amounts of damage is key to our list. It is a full 4-up Feel No Pain. Most of our stratagems and detachment rules have a 4-up Feel No Pain to mortals or psychic damage. And this one is everything, mortals, psychic, and all regular damage. With some character and stratagem combinations, this unit becomes even harder to take down. But it is only a once per game and it has to be used at the start of the shooting or the fight phase. Okay, so when do we use it? Short answer, turn 3. But you're not here for that, so let's get into it. We 100% do not want to use this on turn 1. Turn 1, we can use it to keep this unit alive if we absolutely need to and it may be taking a turn 1 charge. Even then, anytime we're using Living Fortress on turn 1 means we made a mistake in either movement, deployment, or poor target priority. If you find you're needing this early game, try working on your movement and unit placement. I'm guilty of this too, of the, oh, I left a spear sticking out, I guess I'm dead. It's a silly rule, but it is a rule as an elite army that we really need to be mindful of, because if we leave a spear sticking out, we lose that whole unit just for a little spear sticking out. It's kind of feels bad, and that's our own fault. I try my best to have this still available for my go turn, or I pounce on the objectives or the enemy units. The next turn I will be facing a large counterattack. We want to have the Living Fortress available to tank the counterattack and keep pushing forward. And most important, ask questions. Ask your opponent at the start of the shooting phase or the fighting phase the damage value of the weapons and range of your Custodian Wardens. If we have a bunch of AP 0 or AP 1 damage 1 attacks coming our way, we might want to save Living Fortress for later. If we have a bunch of AP 2 or AP 3 damage 3 attacks coming our way, then we may want to use it. Ask how many shots or how many attacks each of these high damage weapons have. Don't worry, you and your opponent will have a much better game if you can ask each other about each other's army and just have fun with it. You don't want to be holding back and keeping secrets. Tell your opponent what your army can do. Don't go for those gotchas. Now we'll go over the 4 detachments, the detachment rules, and highlight some of the better stratagems to keep in mind for the Custodian Wardens, then give the Wardens an overall rating out of 10 for each detachment. Now let's start going over the detachments. We'll start with the big one, Shield Host. So the Shield Host detachment rule, Martial Mastery, at the start of the battle round you can select one of the bullet points below. If you do so until the start of the next battle round, that bullet point effect apply. Each Adeptus Custodian with the Martial Kata ability, melee weapons equipped by a model gain the critical hits on 5 ability. Or you could pick each Adeptus Custodes model with the Martial Kata ability, melee weapons equipped by that model gain +1 AP. Now we'll go through a few of the stratagems that I do think are quite important to the Wardens from the Shield Host detachment. We have Arcane Genetic Alchemy, and that is the 4+ Feel No Pain in any phase to mortal wounds. This is one of the most important stratagems we have access to depending on the opponent's army. Multi-potentiality, and that is our fallback and charge. And with access to a once per game Feel No Pain, we can use that if we get charged to tank a bunch of the damage, and then our turn we use the stratagem to either fall back and then charge back in for fights first, or into a whole different unit. We get assassination, we want to fall back, charge into another unit to get assassination. Finally, I want to highlight Unwavering Sentinels, and this is if you control an objective, -1 to the hit roll in the fight phase. It's decent. It used to be our kata that we could use for free, but it's something to keep in mind to help keep these Wardens alive. For a score for the Wardens and the Shield Host, with the detachment rule to boost the overall damage of the Wardens, yes, it does boost the rest of the melee units we have access to as well as the Custodian Wardens, but as our most offensive unit, they do enjoy being a little extra deadly now too. There is going to be a high scoring theme for these detachments. They can be a bland unit, especially a list of 15 of them, but it's hard to deny how effective Wardens are. With access to some good to great stratagems, I can't help but give the Custodian Wardens a 10 out of 10. For the Shield Host detachment. Now we have Talons of the Emperor. So the Talons of the Emperor detachment rule, Revered Companions. Psychonic units from your army gain the following ability: Null, Aegis, and it is a aura. While an Adeptus Custodes unit is within 6 inches of this unit, models in that unit have a 5-up Feel No Pain to psychic attacks or mortal wounds. All other Adeptus Custodes units from your army gain the following ability: Deadly Unity, and it is a aura as well. While a Psychonic unit is within 6 inches of this unit, each time a model in that Psychonic unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. And for some stratagems that I want to highlight for this unit for the Talons, we have Emperor's Executioners for 2 CP, and this is just add 1 to the wound roll if your target is below starting strength. Then we have Empiric Severance, and this one is much better now that devastating wounds are mortal wounds, so we do get a protection against it. So it is a 4-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds, but you do have to be within 6 inches of a Psychonic unit to use this. Then we have Hunt as 1, and this one is a fallback, shoot, and charge stratagem. So just like Shield Host, this is great. So if you get charged, you can pop your 4-up Feel No Pain with your Wardens, and then in the following turn, use Hunt as 1 to fall back, charge back into this unit, or maybe another unit for some points. Then we have Shield of Honor, and this was a good one to protect our Psychonic units because we don't want them getting killed off, because now they do actually give us a 5-up Feel No Pain to mortal, so we want to keep them protected when they are on the board next to our Custodes units, especially with Wardens. This is a great one to use, especially if your opponent doesn't want to be shooting into your Wardens. You pop this, they have to shoot the Wardens instead of your Psychonic units. Then the big one, Talon of Pincer. This is the 6-inch reactive movement if an enemy ends a normal, advanced, or fallback move next to your Wardens. So it's a great one to use if you want to get away from a charge, extend your charge range, or get behind some ruins to get out of line of sight for some shooting. There's a lot of things you can do with this stratagem. I do have a few videos going over this detachment in more detail and just what you can do with this stratagem, but it's still a great one and the most important one to keep in mind of what you want to do and what you can do with this army. So now let's go over the score for the Wardens and Talons of the Emperor. With the change to devastating wounds in the June 2024 data slate, the detachment rule now can protect us from mortal wounds. This allows us to hold on to Living Fortresses, 4-up Feel No Pain until later turns. With a multitude of amazing stratagems to pick from, the Wardens are a fantastic choice for Talons of the Emperor. From Hunt as 1 for the fallback and charge, to Talon of Pincer for the 6-inch reactive move, even access to a 4-up Feel No Pain to mortals if within 6 inches of a Psychonic unit, fantastic stratagems. With the detachment rule now making a difference, we want to have some Psychonic units in our list. Making use of Shield of Honor and Talon Pincer will be important to keeping those Psychonic units safe. The recent change on August 1st, 2024 to allow us to use a Shield Captain's Strategic Mastery to reduce the cost of these stratagems by 1, even though they target multiple units, is another boon to the Wardens. Since they need a character to lead them to gain the access to Resolute Will, it might as well be a Shield Captain, possibly a Blade Champion, but a Shield Captain is great if you're going to have one character, just so you have access to Talon Pincer for free in some of these great stratagems. Now we can target a Psychonic unit along with this Wardens unit. These stratagems, and now the much better working detachment rule, I give the Custodian Wardens a 10 out of 10 for the Talons of the Emperor detachment. Let's quickly go over the Null, Maiden, Vigil. The Creeping Dread is the detachment rule. In the battle shock step of the opponent's army, if any unit is below starting strength and within 12 inches of a Psychonic unit, the enemy unit must take a battle shock test. If below half strength, -1 to that battle shock roll. The detachment rule and stratagems will not work on the Custodian Wardens. Only the core stratagems will be available to this unit, such as CP reroll or heroic intervention. Even though the Custodian Wardens gain nothing from the Null, Maiden, Vigil detachment, these Wardens are still the toughest unit we have available with the data sheet alone. They will need a leader to gain access to Resolute Will. Even so, I give this unit a 9 out of 10. A very good choice to add some toughness to a Null, Maiden, Vigil list. Another quick one is Auric Champions. Assemblage of Might. I still call it New Assemblage of Might just because I do want to keep on pushing that through in case people haven't seen this yet, that it is the character unit now, not just the character model. Start of your command phase, select one unit from your opponent's army until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in the Adeptus Custodes character unit from your army makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, add 1 to the wound roll. The Wardens want to be led by a character to gain access to Resolute Will. Now they will gain +1 to wound against the Assemblage of Might target as well. So for the score, at least now with the changes to Wardens to get access to the +1 to wound against the Assemblage of Might target, making the Wardens overall more potent in the shooting and melee, if a character is leading them. The stratagems still only benefit character models though, and that is the downside. With the +1 to wound on the Assemblage of Might target, paired up with a Blade Champion would make a deadly yet very tough unit. I do like both Wardens and Terminators for Auric Champions. Like the Alaris Terminators, not having access to stratagems does negate some of this amazing data sheet. I still score this unit a 9 out of 10. This video was to highlight the strengths of the Custodian Wardens, give you some ideas of what can be done with this unit. With high scores across the board, the Custodian Wardens and the Alaris Custodians are both such fantastic data sheets that do not need stratagems or even detachment rules to be good. The Custodian Wardens are my go-to unit when I'm building a list and I want at least one tough objective holding unit paired with either a Shield Captain, Blade Champion, or Valerian. I hope you all enjoyed this deep dive, learned something useful. And like I always say, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.